All right, get ready because today we are going deep on Black Myth, Wukong,
Hmm.
this action RPG that seems like it's got everybody talking.
Yeah, it really does seem to have captured people's imaginations.
You bet. And you sent me this huge stack of articles and like every single detail about this game.
Did.
So we've got a lot to cover. For anybody listening who loves mythology or amazing visuals or just wants to understand why this game has got everyone so hyped, well, you are in the right place.
Definitely. And I think one of the things that's so captivating about Black Myth, Wukong, is that it's so deeply rooted in this classic Chinese tale, Journey to the West.
Okay.
It's not just taking the characters or using the setting, but it's really woven into like the DNA of the whole game.
I am curious how deep it actually goes. Like, does it borrow plot points from the book, or is it more just like using the world and characters as inspiration?
It goes way deeper than just using names. Like the game itself is divided into 6 chapters.
Okay.
And each one of those chapters is inspired by an actual location from the novel Journey to the West. Like, you've got Black Wind Mountain, which was known in the story for, like, fierce bandits and, all the dangers there.
Right, right.
And then there's the Flaming Mountains, which, if you can imagine, is this landscape of, like, scorching heat and fiery trials.
Okay.
So the developers have taken these kind of legendary settings and transformed them into, like, these incredible in-game locations that you get to explore.
So you're telling me I'm going to get a walk around in these places?
Yeah, you actually get to step into the world of Journey to the West and see these places for yourself.
That's pretty cool. I have to admit that is enticing.
Yeah.
Okay. But I'm also curious about just the gameplay itself. I know we get to play as Sun Wukong, the Monkey King.
Yeah.
But what is the combat actually like?
Well, the combat system is really built around Sun Wukong's legendary staff.
Okay.
And, it's not just a weapon. It's like an extension of him.
Right.
And to make things even more interesting, you have 3 different stances that you can master with this staff.
3 stances, okay?
Yeah, you've got Smash, Pillar, and Thrust, each with their own strengths and weaknesses.
Okay, break it down for me. What's the difference between those?
Well, Smash is your heavy hitter, good for breaking through enemy defenses. Pillar has a wide sweeping arc. That one's perfect for controlling crowds if you're surrounded by smaller enemies.
Oh, okay.
And then you've got Thrust for quick, precise strikes.
So it's almost like a rock, paper, scissors kind of system. You have to choose the right stance for the situation.
Exactly, yeah. It makes you think about your approach rather than just button mashing.
Gotcha, okay.
And then on top of that, you've got this focus meter. Think of it like a special energy bar.
Okay.
It builds up as you land hits and dodge attacks. And when it's full, you can unleash these really powerful spells.
Oh, like what?
Things like Immobilize, which will freeze your enemies in place.
Mhm.
Or there's Cloud Step, which is a short-range teleport.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So that adds a whole other layer to the combat.
I'm imagining the combos you could pull off. That sounds really cool. I also read something about being able to transform into creatures that you've defeated.
Oh, yeah.
Is that as crazy as it sounds?
Oh, it's totally as wild as it sounds. You can shapeshift into a bunch of different creatures. Like,
Yeah.
each one has its own abilities and look.
Okay, wow.
So you can imagine, like, turning into a ferocious demon dog or this, like, nimble bird-like creature.
So the possibilities are pretty much endless.
Yeah, there are tons of different transformations to experiment with.
Oh, that's going on my must-try list. Okay. But a game like this wouldn't be complete without some truly epic boss battles.
Right.
What can you tell me about those?
Oh, man, get ready for a challenge because this game boasts, are you ready for this?
Hit me.
107 bosses
107.
across the 6 chapters.
Wow, that's a lot of bosses. Okay. Do you think it risks being repetitive with that many?
Not at all.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because they're not just like your cookie-cutter bad guys.
Okay.
They're pulled straight from Chinese mythology.
Oh, okay.
And they're actually categorized into these different types. You've got divinities, guardians, chiefs, acolytes, masters, Taoists, lords, and kings.
Wow, there's a whole hierarchy.
There is. And each of those types will have unique attack patterns and strategies you'll need to figure out.
So it's not just about having a bigger sword and hitting harder. You really have to understand how to fight them.
You have to understand their weaknesses, their tells. And some of these bosses, get this, they're actually inspired by real deities in the Chinese pantheon, like the Dragon King or the Jade Emperor.
Wow.
So these battles are like stepping right into the myths themselves.
That's pretty incredible. They really went all in on the mythology.
They did.
Okay. But let's be honest, a game like this, especially nowadays, can live or die by its visuals.
For sure.
How does Black Myth Wukong hold up in that department?
Visually, this game is stunning.
Okay.
They used Unreal Engine 5 to build the world, and it's incredibly detailed, breathtakingly beautiful,
Yep.
and they've done it without sacrificing performance. Even on a PC with above recommended specs, you can expect a smooth 75 to 80 FPS at 1440p resolution medium settings.
Wow.
The PlayStation 5 version is just as impressive.
So you're saying even if I don't have the most powerful computer, I can still experience this amazing world
Absolutely.
without it looking like a slideshow.
Yep, you can still enjoy those smooth frame rates.
Oh, okay.
And the world really is immersive. Like, think ancient temples with these incredibly detailed carvings, lush bamboo forests, swaying in the wind, and these misty mountains that seem to go on forever. They've got this amazing way of combining these realistic graphics with a style that still feels very true to the source material.
It's like they've created a piece of art that you can play.
Yes, that's a great way to put it.
Okay, this is all sounding pretty amazing. But let's talk about character customization. What kind of options do players have to, personalize their Monkey King experience?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting because the developers have kind of taken this no wrong choices approach to customization.
Okay.
You get a wide range of equipment and armor to choose from, and it's all designed to let you experiment without fear of messing up your build.
Oh, okay.
Like, you don't have to worry about making a mistake and ruining your character permanently.
So if I decide like halfway through, oh, I want to try something completely different,
Totally.
I'm not stuck.
Not at all. There are special locations in the game called Keeper's Shrines, where you can completely respect your character, redistribute all your skill points, and try something totally new.
Okay, so no penalty.
No penalty at all.
That takes the pressure off, for sure. So what kind of things can you actually customize?
Well, you have different armor sets that offer various bonuses, healing gourds to keep you alive in those tougher fights,
Sure.
and of course a variety of staffs to match your combat style.
Now, how do you actually improve your character? Is there a traditional skill tree or...
There is a skill tree,
Yeah.
and it's pretty extensive.
Okay.
You earn what they call sparks by defeating enemies and completing challenges.
Okay.
And then these sparks are what you use to develop your skills. So if
Yeah.
you ever want to tweak your build, you just head to the self-development menu, ignite sparks again.
Okay.
And you can reallocate those sparks however you want.
That's a pretty neat system. I like that it's straightforward. But I've heard about these spirit and vessel powers. How do those fit in?
Yeah, so these are like extra layers of customization that let you really fine-tune your play style even more.
Oh, okay.
Spirit powers will grant you new active skills. So think of it like adding new moves to your arsenal.
Okay.
Vessel powers will give you passive effects. So maybe they boost certain stats or give you some kind of advantage in combat.
So you could have one that's like a spirit that enhances your melee attacks and a vessel that maybe boosts your defense. So you're like a super tank.
Exactly. It's about finding the combinations that work for you and the way you like to play.
That's really cool. Okay, so we've talked about this amazing world, this combat that sounds really dynamic. They've really thought of everything. But I'm also really curious about these different editions of the game that are coming out.
Oh yeah, the different editions, they've got something for everyone. From your standard edition all the way up to the super deluxe edition for collectors.
Okay, so break it down for me. What are the options and what do you get?
All right, so starting with the basics, the standard edition will set you back $59.99.
Okay,
That's going to get you the full game, no extras.
all right. Straightforward.
Then there's the digital deluxe edition. That one's $69.99.
Okay, it's $10 more.
Exactly. And that one comes with a little bit of bonus content to enhance your experience.
Okay, and then for the people who really want to go all out, I know there's a deluxe edition and a collector's edition, right?
There is. Deluxe edition is going to be $169.99.
Okay.
And the collector's edition is a whopping $399.99.
Ooh, $3.99. That better come with a real-life Monkey King staff.
Maybe not a staff,
Oh.
but it does come with some seriously cool collectibles. But let's dive into that digital deluxe edition first because it's got some really tempting stuff.
All right, so for an extra $10, what are we getting?
You get the Bronze Cloud staff, which just looks incredible in the game. You get a whole folk opera-themed equipment set.
Yeah.
So you can really look stylish as you're battling demons.
Okay.
And you get a Wind Chimes curio and the digital soundtrack.
A folk opera-themed equipment set. I can already picture that. That's amazing. And I always love when you get the soundtrack with the game.
You too.
Is it as epic as the game looks?
Oh, it's definitely epic. It's accessible anytime through the in-game music library. And they've blended traditional Chinese instruments with these modern orchestral arrangements, and it really creates this unique sound.
Awesome. Okay, so that's for the digital deluxe. Now, what about those deluxe and collector's editions? Those pricey ones?
All right, get ready for some serious collectibles. We're talking steelbook case, a wind chime necklace so you can wear your fandom with pride, and a 40 centimeter, that's like 16 inches, Sun Wukong statue.
Wow.
It's huge. It'll be the centerpiece of any gaming collection.
I bet.
The deluxe edition is $169.99, and that collector's edition, $399.99.
Okay.
But keep in mind that those editions both come with a digital download code, no physical disc.
So no popping the disc in the console. It's all digital these days.
That's right.
Still, those editions sound pretty tempting for the hardcore collectors. You know, I think beyond all the bells and whistles, what's really got me excited about Black Myth, Wukong is the potential impact.
Yeah.
This game could really be a game changer, not just for the action RPG genre, but the way we see Chinese culture and mythology represented in video games.
It's really exciting to think about.
You know, it's not every day that you see a game that's developed by a Chinese studio based on one of the most iconic Chinese stories, achieving global recognition.
You're right. It's a pretty big deal.
I think it's a sign that the gaming world is opening up to more diverse stories and perspectives.
It definitely feels that way.
And Black Myth.
Right.
Wukong is leading the charge. The fact that it's already gotten this much attention is a testament to the appeal of these kinds of stories worldwide.
Absolutely. It's resonating with people everywhere.
Okay, but what about the gameplay itself? We've talked about the combat, the visuals, but what sets it apart from other action RPGs out there?
One of the things that's really intriguing about Black Myth, Wukong, is how it blends traditional martial arts combat with this kind of strategic resource management.
Oh, okay.
So it's not just button mashing. You have to think about your positioning, your timing, how you're using your abilities, especially those special powers tied to your focus meter.
So it rewards both skill and strategy.
Exactly. You can't just go in swinging wildly and expect to come out on top.
Gotcha.
You have to be deliberate and thoughtful. And remember, those 3 staff stances,
I do.
they each have their own unique moveset, attack patterns, adding another layer of depth to combat.
So with 107 bosses to fight, it sounds like there are a lot of opportunities to really put your skills to the test.
Absolutely, yeah. And each one is really meticulously designed with their own attack patterns, weaknesses. You have to learn their moves, their strategies, if you want to survive.
So it's not just about having the best gear. You really have to understand how to fight.
Yeah, observation, timing, mastering those nuances. It's what sets this game apart.
I feel like they've struck this balance between accessibility and depth, where there's something for everybody, whether you're a hardcore action RPG fan or somebody who's just jumping into the genre for the first time.
Yeah, there's definitely something for everyone.
And then there's the character progression, which we talked about, that seems to have a lot of flexibility.
A lot of customization options, yeah.
You can experiment, respect your character. It seems like with the spirit powers, wrestle powers, the possibilities are really endless.
Yeah, you can really tailor your character to suit your preferences. Whether you like that more aggressive, in-your-face approach, or you prefer a more tactical ranged style.
It's impressive how deep they've gone with the customization without making it seem too overwhelming.
Right, they managed to keep it intuitive and accessible, which is great.
So we've got these epic battles, stunning visuals, a combat system that sounds really deep and engaging, tons of customization, what's not to love?
I'm honestly struggling to find any major flaws, it seems, to check all the boxes for a great action RPG experience.
Yeah, it really sounds like it could be a game changer. But before we get too carried away, I think it's important to take a step back and think about the narrative and the pacing of the game.
Okay.
You know, we know it's based on Journey to the West, but how does that story actually unfold in the game? Is it linear, or is there room for exploration and side quests?
That's a great question, and it's one of the things that sets this game apart, I think, from a lot of other action RPGs.
Yeah.
While there is a clear main story path that you follow, each of the 6 chapters is designed to explore a specific theme or concept from Journey to the West.
Okay.
And along the way, you'll have plenty of opportunities to kind of veer off the beaten path and explore some optional content, find hidden areas.
So it's not just a straight shot from point A to point B.
No, not at all. There's a lot of room for discovery and exploration. You can choose to just focus on the main story, which is estimated to take about 20 to 40 hours to complete.
Wow, that's already a pretty lengthy game.
Yeah. Or you can spend dozens more hours exploring every nook and cranny of this world, completing side quests, uncovering secrets, and really immersing yourself in the lore and the atmosphere of Journey to the West.
Okay, so it sounds like they've struck a nice balance between guided storytelling and player freedom.
Exactly. You're not completely railroaded, but you're not just dropped in a massive open world with no sense of direction either.
Gotcha. You mentioned that each chapter explores a specific theme or concept from Journey to the West. Can you give me an example of what that looks like in the game?
Yeah, so one of the chapters is set in the Flaming Mountains, which we talked about before. It's a classic location from the novel. And in the game, this chapter is really designed to explore the themes of temptation and perseverance.
Okay, so it's like tying back to the source material.
Exactly. And you'll encounter enemies that represent different forms of temptation that you have to overcome to progress.
Oh, that's interesting. It's not just fighting monsters. It's like you're fighting these thematic representations.
Exactly. And they've done a great job of weaving these themes into the environments as well. The Flaming Mountains itself, it's visually stunning and really evokes this sense of like heat, danger, temptation.
Okay, so it's not just a backdrop. It's actually like
It's an integral part of the storytelling,
part of the story.
and they've used a mix of linear levels and more open areas to create a sense of variety and pacing. So some sections of the game will be like, okay, you're going through this path, and then others will open up and give you more freedom to explore, find secrets.
It's a nice touch. Keeps the gameplay fresh.
Right, and they've done an incredible job of bringing these environments to life with dynamic weather effects, realistic lighting, a vibrant color palette. So whether you're exploring a bustling city, a serene forest, or like a treacherous mountain range, it's just a feast for the eyes.
Sounds like they really pulled out all the stops to create this immersive experience.
They definitely did.
And the soundtrack, you said, adds another layer to that whole atmosphere.
Oh, absolutely. Like I mentioned, they blend those traditional Chinese instruments with the more modern orchestral sounds.
Mhm.
And it creates this really epic, evocative score.
The kind of soundtrack that sticks with you after you're done playing.
Exactly.
Well, I have to say, I am incredibly impressed with what I've heard so far. It really does sound like Black Myth.
Oh,
Wukong is shaping up to be a truly special game.
I agree.
Like, it has all the makings of a classic.
It really does. And as you're traveling through these amazing landscapes, keep an eye out for hidden details and collectibles. The developers have really packed the game with these little touches that just enrich the world.
Okay, like what kind of things? Give me some examples.
Well, you'll find things like journal pages, which shed light on the backstory of some of the characters or events.
Okay.
And there are also these beautiful chapter-end illustrations, which really capture the essence of each stage of your journey.
So they really put effort into making this world feel lived in and like full of history.
Exactly. It's more than just a visual spectacle. They
Yeah.
really want you to feel like you're experiencing Journey to the West on this deep level.
Awesome. Okay, so we've talked about the story, the combat, the visuals, even these little hidden details. What about the social aspect? Is there any multiplayer component to the game, or is it strictly single player?
So primarily Black Myth, Wukong, is a single-player game.
Okay.
But there are some hints that suggest a potential multiplayer element might be introduced later on.
Ooh, really? Like what?
Well, the developers have mentioned that they're exploring ways to incorporate multiplayer, and they've even teased the possibility of co-op play in future updates or expansions.
Co-op play. In this world. That would be amazing.
It would. Imagine, teaming up with a friend to take down those massive bosses.
Yeah. Or explore those hidden areas together.
Exactly. But for now, we'll have to wait and see what they have in store for us.
Okay, fair enough. Keeping my fingers crossed for some co-op action in the future. Speaking of the future, let's talk release date. When can we actually get our hands on this game?
The official release date for Black Myth, Wukong, is December 12th, 2024.
December 12th. Okay. Mark your calendars, everybody. And what platforms will it be available on?
At launch, it'll be available on PlayStation 5 and Windows.
Okay.
But they've also confirmed an Xbox Series XS version is in development, so it'll be coming to that platform a little bit later.
So pretty much all the major platforms covered. That's great news. And what about accessibility? Have the developers said anything about features for players with disabilities?
Yeah, they've been very vocal about their commitment to making the game as accessible as possible to as many players as possible. They're implementing a bunch of features to cater to different needs and preferences.
Like what?
Things like customizable controls,
Okay.
adjustable difficulty settings,
Right.
colorblind modes, subtitle options, and they're also working on features to assist players with motor impairments and cognitive differences.
That's fantastic to hear. It's so important for games to be inclusive
I agree.
and to be welcoming to everybody, regardless of their abilities. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
We've talked story, combat, visuals, All the different editions, the release date, accessibility. Is there anything else we should touch on before we wrap up this part of our deep dive?
One thing we haven't really delved into is the potential impact this game could have on the gaming industry as a whole.
Oh, okay. Yeah. We've talked about how it's showcasing Chinese culture, but I think it goes even deeper than that, right?
I think so. For one, Black Myth.
Hmm.
Wukong is being developed by Game Science, which is a relatively new studio based in China.
Okay.
And the fact that they're creating a game of this scope and quality is a huge testament to the growing talent and innovation in the Chinese game development scene.
So it's not just about this one game. It's about what this represents for the future of Chinese game development.
Exactly. Black Myth, Wukong could be this watershed moment that paves the way for more Chinese developers to gain that global recognition.
That's a big deal. I mean, the more diverse voices we have in the gaming industry, the better.
Couldn't agree more.
And then there's the impact this could have on how we view action RPGs as a genre.
Oh, yeah.
Is it doing something that's radically different?
I think it's pushing the boundaries of what we've come to expect. It's not just about grinding for loot, leveling up.
Right.
It's about experiencing this rich story, exploring this beautifully crafted world, mastering this deep and engaging combat system.
So it's more holistic, values, story, and atmosphere as much as the mechanics and the progression.
Exactly. And I think that's something that a lot of players are looking for these days. We've seen this trend towards these more narrative-driven games.
Right.
And Black Myth, Wukong seems perfectly positioned to capitalize on that.
It's arriving at the right time with the right ingredients.
Yeah, I think so. And it has the potential to inspire other developers to think outside the box and create these more innovative and engaging action RPG experiences.
That's significant, not just about entertainment, but about pushing the genre forward, raising the bar.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe it'll even spark this renewed interest in Chinese mythology and culture around the world.
That would be amazing.
That'd be great. I think we've covered just about everything for this part of our deep dive, but there is one crucial element we haven't explored yet.
What's that?
What does it actually feel like to play Black Myth, Wukong?
Oh, yeah, the million-dollar question. We've talked about all these amazing features, but what's the actual gameplay experience like?
That's what we'll be diving into in the final part of our deep dive.
All right.
We're going to take a closer look at that moment-to-moment gameplay, break down the combat system in detail, and share our impressions based on the footage and the demos that we've seen so far.
So if you want to hear our thoughts on what it's like to actually step into the shoes of Sun Wukong, wield that legendary staff, make sure to join us for part 3 of our Black Myth Wukong deep dive. All right, so we've talked about all the amazing things that Black Myth Wukong has to offer, but what's it actually like to play? What's that experience like?
Well, from what we've seen in the gameplay footage, the demos,
Yeah.
it's safe to say that this game delivers on its promises. The combat is fast, fluid, and incredibly satisfying.
Okay, so give me the details here. What makes the combat stand out? Is it just, mindless button mashing, or is there something more to it?
It's way more than button mashing. We talked about those 3 stat stances, smash, pillar, and thrust.
Yeah.
Each one feels distinct, and it really requires you to think about which one you're going to use depending on the enemy you're facing.
So you can't just spam the same attack over and over again.
No, you got to be strategic.
You really have to think about it.
Exactly. And then there's the focus meter, which adds another layer of strategy on top of that.
Right.
You have to manage your focus, use it at the right moment to unleash those really powerful spells that we talked about.
It sounds like they've created a combat system that's both deep and accessible.
Yeah.
It's easy to pick up, but then there's a lot to master if you really want to get good at it.
You got it.
And those transformations, you were talking about those.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that just adds a whole other level to the combat, right?
Definitely.
You're not just a warrior with a staff anymore. Suddenly you can be a giant ape.
Exactly.
A ferocious tiger, some kind of weird flying creature.
The possibilities are really endless.
And those boss battles.
Yeah, the boss battles.
I mean, that's got to be where the combat really shines.
It's where it all comes together.
Yeah.
Each boss is like this puzzle that you have to figure out.
Okay.
You have to learn their attack patterns, find their weaknesses, and use all the tools you have to take them down.
You mentioned earlier that there's over 100 bosses.
107.
107. Do they all feel unique? Or does it start to get repetitive after a while?
From what we've seen, they've really put the effort in to make sure each boss has its own distinct personality
Okay.
and fighting style.
Yeah.
You have towering giants. You have these really agile tricksters.
Oh, wow.
Every encounter really demands a different approach.
So it's not just the same enemy model with a different skin.
No, not at all.
They really put that work in.
Oh, yeah, they made sure each one feels special and challenging.
And they're pulling from Chinese mythology, right?
Absolutely. They've incorporated all these elements of mythology and folklore.
So it's not just a visually impressive game, it's also got this cultural depth to it.
Exactly.
Okay, and speaking of impressive, we got to talk about those environments.
Yeah.
And we talked a bit about how they look, but what's it like to actually explore this world?
It's incredible. They've really paid attention to the details,
Okay.
like the way the light filters through the leaves, the rustling of the wind through the bamboo.
Except
It's all there.
it's those little details that really make the world feel alive.
It's not just about high-resolution textures.
Yeah.
It's about those little touches that make it feel real.
And you mentioned before there are dynamic weather effects too.
Oh, yeah, so you'll be walking along and suddenly you'll get caught in a downpour or this misty fog will roll in.
So the world's changing around you as you play.
Yeah.
It's not static.
Not at all. It really adds to that sense of immersion.
Okay, and the sound design. We talked about the music, but is there anything special they've done with the sound effects?
The sound design is phenomenal.
Okay.
I mean, every clang of your staff, every roar of a creature you encounter, even just the wind in the trees, it's all so crisp and detailed.
It sounds like they're really going for a multi-sensory experience here.
Definitely. It's not just about what you see, it's about what you hear and feel as well.
Well, from everything we've talked about, I think it's safe to say that this game is going to be something truly special.
I think so too.
It's not just another action RPG.
It's something different.
It's really pushing the boundaries of what we expect from this genre.
And it's showcasing this rich culture that we don't often see in video games.
Yeah, and it's going to deliver this experience that feels both immersive and unforgettable.
Hopefully. We'll have to wait and see.
Well, I think we've covered just about everything in our Black Myth. Wukong Deep Dive.
We went deep.
We did. If you're looking for an action RPG that's unlike anything you've played before, Black Myth. Wukong should definitely be on your radar.
Mark your calendars. December 12th, 2024.
That's the day we finally get to step into this world ourselves and experience this epic adventure.
Can't wait.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll see you next time for another exploration of something awesome.